Good morning and welcome back to Mindful Mischief. I am Dr. Martinez, principal here at LaVille Elementary School, and excited to be your host for episode 4. Kind of a special day because yesterday, our first episode was released. It is now streaming. So I want to take an opportunity to acknowledge that, but also take some guesses on how many views you think we have. So we're streaming the video on YouTube. And we are streaming the audio on Spotify. So what do you think?
I'm going with 32 views on YouTube.
32 views on YouTube?
45 total on both.
45 total on both. Okay, let me hit the button, refresh. 67 views on YouTube.
Oh my gosh, we're a huge deal.
And 8 on Spotify.
Wow.
So people prefer the video, apparently.
Not me.
No.
Oh, I love it.
No. We asked Scotty to not use the cameras, but apparently that's not an option anymore.
For reference of those watching the videos, the camera adds 30 pounds.
32
okay?
is what I read.
32 pounds, and that's true.
Yeah. So that's way more. I don't know that I had a number in my mind of what I thought would be views.
Okay, that is way more. But like genuinely, you guys have both watched like episode 1 and 2?
To some degree, yes.
Is it as painful for you as it is for me? Because I am like cringing at myself on camera.
I feel like I'm holding myself tightly because I saw myself moving so much. I'm very jittery. Yeah.
It's all the coffee you drink.
Well, maybe. Yeah. So I don't know. So 67 views seems like a lot. So thank you for everyone who has been watching. We appreciate it. And hopefully that means people are enjoying and finding benefit.
Somebody texted me this morning and said that they were listening. Shout out to that person. She knows who she is.
We appreciate you.
Yep.
All right. So in our first 3 episodes, we provided an overview of conscious discipline, the 3 brain states, and the connected school family. Today we're going to move into sharing about the specific skills and powers that provide the safety and the problem-solving skills necessary for a successful school. But before we do that, I just want to take a couple more minutes to talk to my co-host. Episode 4, what's been the most enjoyable part of it so far? Kari, start with you.
I have just really loved being able to get to connect with both my co-hosts, but as well as like different staff members and families, and just talking about what we're doing in this school and what conscious discipline really looks like.
Yep. Lisa?
Yeah, this is just super fun. This is right up my alley. To be honest, I've thought about doing a podcast for a long time, but didn't know how to swing that. So this is just a cool opportunity, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, I think for me, same, the idea of trying something new, right? It's exciting, nerve-wracking at the same time, but also kind of excited to see and hear whatever feedback and response we get from the school community. And again, hoping it's positive. But that's enough about us. We would not be anything without our guests, and I'm probably pretty sure that the reason people are watching us anyways because of the guests, not actually because of us.
Not true.
Today we have 2 fine guests. First from the elementary school, our other counselor, Miss Amber Stillson.
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, Amber.
Hello.
And from the junior senior high, one of the interventionists, Zach Tyler, but also a parent at the elementary school. So welcome, Zach.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Welcome.
All right, so we're going to start to give you an opportunity to share about yourselves. 1 minute elevator introduction, who you are, your family, your background, whatever connection you have to LaVille. And then the question we need you to answer today, if you could eat only one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Okay.
So Amber, we'll start with you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Even
thanks
though
for
I've
joining us.
shared that this is my version of you know what. I have 4 daughters. 3 of them are grown, and 1's left in high school. So they're pretty much the focus of my life still, and my heart. My connection to LaVille was I live not very far from here, but went to school at a different school. So I've been familiar with LaVille my whole life. I'm a school counselor. Before that, I was a teacher. This is my 24th year in education, 11 years in counseling. And pizza-wise, or I'm sorry, food is pizza because there's lots of variety, right? You can have barbecue chicken pizza. You can have
Couldn't agree more.
all the good stuff. So pizza. I could probably eat pizza every day.
It's a solid strategy right
Yeah,
there.
right.
Yeah.
Finding variety even though it's the same food.
Yes,
She did
and
not need a stool to get onto the couch
I
either.
did not. I feel like on
Tyler.
Saturday Night Live, that girl, remember, she used to climb
Yeah.
into the big red
Right,
chair
yeah.
and like get all ready.
Yes.
It's funny because I'm going to be referencing Saturday Night Live later as
Are
well.
you?
Yeah.
Excellent.
funny.
Yeah, tell me if my feet start going. Woo! Okay.
All right, Zach, your turn.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in this area. Graduated from LaVille after high school. Went away for a little bit to do my thing. Came back as an aide. Didn't graduate
forgot you did
college.
that,
Yeah,
Zach.
so
I
I
forgot
came
you were an
back
aide
was
first.
a full-time aide for a long time and went to part-time school at IUSB.
Talk like about from like starting from the ground up in education, right? Like that is one of the hardest positions in the school is to be an aide, right?
Right.
You're doing a lot of things that no one else really wants to do, right?
For sure.
Fair.
I guess it goes, yeah, the aid thing was great because it got me into education back in high school. I'm going to go back a little bit. I took the test about what do you want to do after high school and college. It was either law enforcement or education, okay? I chose law enforcement. That
Sorry, I'm laughing with you, not at
that
you.
didn't work out. I chose to go away from that. Knew education was what I wanted to do, so I came back home, went to IUSB, took very few classes at the beginning, and worked full-time as the aide. Loved being here, loved the staff, obviously, because I was in most of their classes. So, like, I grew up with all these teachers, and now I'm still calling them Mr. and Mrs. as I work with them. Still talk to them like that, right? Like, always, they're Mr. and Mrs. to me. But then I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere, going to part-time school, so I had to leave again, went away to IUPUI, got my education degree, came back then to LaVille as a fourth grade teacher. Did that for a year, moved up to sixth grade for a number of years, and then found myself at the high school now in a different role. Yeah. It's been a great journey. I've loved the whole thing. Love being part of the community still.
He met his wife in the middle of that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's that.
shout
I-
out to Bethany.
Thank you. 3 daughters, so the
Good luck.
yep. It's already a challenge.
And one
All right.
food.
Anybody for
Oh, one food. So I make a killer baked spaghetti, by the way. I'm going to toot my own horn real quick. That's what I'm going to go with was baked spaghetti. If it was something just random, I'd probably say tacos. Tacos would be, yeah.
What about cowboy caviar?
Cowboy caviar. I can do some
You
of
make
that.
a
yeah.
mean cowboy
Thank
caviar.
You. Appreciate
What's
that.
cowboy caviar?
Oh, it's like a chip dip with
Oh,
like
yeah.
75 different vegetables and
Yep.
beans in it
Yeah.
with like a
Oh, yeah.
vinegar
Be-
base. Oh, it's good.
There's sugar in there.
It's good.
Sugar,
Corn.
okay.
Yeah, the sugar.
You gotta
Not
make
up
sugar.
my alley.
I'll
Absolutely
I'll
not.
make some for you. believe me.
Head to vinegar.
Say, are we answering this
Yeah,
question?
we're answering. Go ahead, Kari.
Okay,
Your food for the rest of your life.
I want watermelon with salt. That's what I want.
What?
I know.
I don't know
know.
what to say to that.
That's okay. I have weird food things. Amber will
Just food
attest
things?
to that. But listen, ZT.
It's the reason I'm between you two.
For me, I'm with Amber. It's pizza because not only like is there regular pizza, but there's like breakfast pizza and taco pizza
Yes.
and dessert pizza and fruit pizza. So literally, the possibilities are quite endless. So it's pizza for me. I've never met a
Stuffed
pizza.
crust pizza,
I've
let's
never met a
go.
pizza I don't like.
No.
Deep
I've met
dish.
Yes,
Chicago pizzas that I don't
Chicago
like.
style,
Chicago style.
New York style,
Detroit
California
style.
kitchen. Like I'm here for all of it.
All of it.
100%.
So I'm gonna go a little bit gray here, and I'm just gonna say breakfast is my.
Is that allowed?
Well, it's an ambiguous question, and as the host, you can do these types of things.
Apparently.
So I'm gonna say breakfast because
whatever you
breakfast is by far my favorite food, regardless if it's pancakes or biscuits and gravy or whatever the breakfast presentation is. I'm here
ready
for
for
it.
Hold on, have you had the breakfast sandwich in the cafeteria yet?
Yes, I had one a couple weeks ago after we talked about it.
What'd you think?
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, enough of that, I suppose. So this is episode 4 of 10 that we're going to be sharing, talking about concepts from the book Conscious Discipline by Dr. Becky. I was thinking this morning we probably should hang a poster or something of her behind
Of
us.
Dr.
I
Becky?
don't know.
So we can reference her.
Cardboard cutout.
What do you
We're
call
friends
what do you
now?
call those big stickers of like sports?
fat head.
Fat heads.
Yes.
That feels.
I'm just thinking, what else can
Like
we
a
do to
not-
draw her attention
Hey,
to
look
this
at our
podcast?
fat head of Dr. Becky. That doesn't feel like very flattering.
You pick up her book
But
at
it
Borders.
could be.
Is Borders still a thing? Borders?
What?
I don't know if Borders is
Pick her
still a
book
thing.
up at
Barnes and
Borders?
Noble's still
Barnes
a thing.
and Nobles, yeah.
Borders Books and
Yeah,
Beyond.
I
is
know.
that
That's what used to be Borders is a grocery store, isn't it? It's not Fresh Time.
Yeah,
What is it?
It's fine.
It's a grocery store
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm not sure, but Amazon. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
okay, Amazon.
Last episode, chapter 3, Mrs. Havermail discussed the school family. Kari, if you want to give us a quick recap of chapter 3.
Absolutely. So we talked about the school family being a healthy model for how we are treating each other in the school, that the school is a safe place for connection, using a healthy family rather than the factory model, which would weed out students who might be different. This helps us accept differences, build unity, and create an environment for everyone to be able to learn. We are interconnected and interdependent, so we rely on each other, and those unique qualities help us grow together. And then we also talked about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So rather than what am I learning with intrinsic motivation, we're sort of avoiding punishment or avoiding the how can I get out of this thing, or how can I earn that? So lots of really cool things that we're doing in the school family, and seeing a lot of really cool things at LaVille with that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to jump right into the first part of chapter 4. And here we start to learn about the skills and the powers of conscious discipline. This chapter 4 focuses on the skill of composure and the power of perception. Now, if you read the book or watched the training episode, the videos, they really do work hand in hand. There's a lot of overlap, but they do have slightly different roles. So the powers are those pieces that contribute to the mindful, conscious adults that have the ability to self-regulate. But then you've got the skills being the problem-solving tools that teachers use to pass along to the students so that they can manage themselves, resolve conflict, and develop those pro-social behaviors. So looking first at the power of perception. The power of perception shows us that no one can make you angry without your permission. In this mindset, happiness is a choice, not a fact applied by an outside person or some outside factor. As an adult, I wanted to ask, have you ever found yourself saying something like, look at what you made me do, don't make me send you to timeout, and you are driving me nuts?
Should bring
Taylor into this.
Should
You
we
brought
take
Taylor
Tay into
Swift
this
into this.
intentionally?
No. Is that Taylor Swift?
Look what you made me do.
Hey, how about this? How about this one?
We're on the same wavelength there.
How about this one? Look what you did, you little jerk. Well, I mean, we know
Are we
that
quoting
one,
a
right?
movie?
Come on.
Yeah,
What
that
is
is from Home Alone.
Are we quoting a movie?
I'm so sorry.
Oh no.
This is why ZT and I.
Oh no.
So these types of statements are what conscious discipline would refer to as angry exclamations. And they send the message that the child or the situation is responsible for your being upset. These types of statements actually give away your power and result in us feeling stressed and powerless, which then triggers us into the survival state that we talked about before. So a moment of honesty and vulnerability. When's the last time you used a statement similar to one of those that we just talked about? Anyone want to share?
Probably yesterday.
Probably yesterday for sure.
Yeah.
Bedtime?
Yeah.
Really? Because I'm going with this morning. 110%.
What was it?
You're making me feel really frustrated.
I think that's a common one at our house too at bedtime.
You are making me feel very frustrated.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean,
It's been a long time. My youngest 17, so I may have said it in my head, but I wouldn't say it to her face. But you're driving me crazy. That was a big one. You guys are driving me crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it was just chaos sometimes.
It's easier to wear, like, I shouldn't say mask, but like it's easier to play the part as an educator for us to like not talk to students like this, right? I would never tell a student like you're driving me crazy or you're making me so mad. I would never. But like it is when at home, when I'm being a parent and I'm like at the end of the day and at my wit's end, I'm like, all bets are off. But it's a lot easier to remember who we are when we're at work.
Yeah.
Like my Mrs. Fights hat is on when I walk in the building. When I get home, I'm Lisa or I'm Mom, and that person looks different depending on the situation.
And also just like giving so much of ourselves through the day, right? Like, but I've even heard some adults say like, you're driving me nuts in the building at times. Like, I think we allow ourselves to sometimes get a little lost in that.
Yeah, well, these types of negative statements do have some unintended consequences.
Of course they do.
So here's 3 of those negative impacts of those types of statements, whether it's from the teaching perspective or from the parenting perspective. Number 1, if a parent is in charge of the child's inner state and the child is in charge of the parent's inner state, the resulting product is blame and the belief that blame alone can result in change. So think about it this way. If I blame someone enough, I could shame them into changing. But as we know, we can't change other people. We can only control or change ourselves. Negative impact number 2, for me to be able to manage my own inner state, I have to be able to control yours. If you would just succumb to my demands, then the world would go my way and I would be able to stay composed and happy. The result being the faulty belief that control equals love or helpfulness. And then negative impact number 3. Others would be happier if I could just be better. If I were smarter, if I were more athletic, if I were kinder, if I were thinner, or whatever fill in the blank you want it to be, then my family would magically be happier. And again, that results in the belief that I alone am not good enough. So the problem here is that when we place others in charge of our feelings, we place them in charge of us. But really, it would be better if we're the ones who are in charge of our own life. So I wanted to share an example of perception, right? It's how we perceive things. And we'll keep talking about this as it relates to composure as we keep going today. But have you ever walked into a room and all of a sudden the conversation stops? People's demeanor changes. How do you perceive that situation when that happens? Because we've all been there, right? How do you perceive that situation?
Well, obviously, you're going to maybe think that, ooh, they're talking about me, or something I've done has created this, because I think that's how we perceive the world, right?
100%.
Our place in it versus like, you guys could have been talking about anything. It was just a natural pause to the conversation and I walk in. However, as human beings, we always think it's about us. So I think it's natural to think, oh my God, they were talking about me, or something happened, something negative. But not, it goes back to remembering it's not always about you.
Yeah.
Most
So
of the time it's not
in the
about
previous episode, you talked about our CD-ROMs, right?
Yeah.
What's been built into us. And so that's what conscious discipline refers to as false messages, right? We are perceiving some situation and we are telling ourselves these false messages. And they're false because we have no idea of knowing if they're true or not.
Yeah, no context.
Now, that happens to me a lot because as principal, oftentimes people stop. And maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Probably not because, I'm pretty awesome.
Toot, toot.
Wow.
No, in all seriousness.
More horn
But the reality is I can't control if they were or they weren't. Right? I can't change that. I can't affect that. And in some degrees, it might be healthy for them to be talking about others because it could have been talking in a positive way. It could have been just problem solving a situation. But it's those false messages I tell myself that then puts me in a state of stress,
Right.
in a state of survival, and then changes my perspective, my perception, when in reality I can't control whatever's happening anyway, so why should I let that affect me?
Right. I think in negative is natural, right? In that situation, like, who are you going to walk into a room and think, oh, they're talking about me in a good way? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then they stopped talking when I showed up.
right.
Have you ever heard other people's opinion of me is none of my business? I have a hard time with that. But I think in this situation, like keeping that in the forefront of your mind of like, you're not gonna change what that is. And as long as you know your truth, right? And you know that like you're acting or making choices that are in the best interest of those around you. And like Dawn Amore said it in one of the episodes, she was in episode 2, right? That like as long as you are acting in love and like coming at it from a love perspective, you can never go wrong. But like we've just got to retrain our brain to think that way when others are That happens to me too.
Well, and also there's a perspective, right? Like sometimes you're critical of people, but it's because you do care, right?
Yeah.
And so it could be from a position of love, even if they are speaking negatively.
If I become apathetic to a situation, you know you've lost me, right? Like if I'm like in my emotional state and I'm elevated and I'm feeling passionate about something, that's because I care. That's just my personality. But as soon as I turn off, like that's, I've kind of stepped away.
Yeah. So something else, thinking about perception and false messages, social media, and something that our kids have to deal a lot with. How do false messages that we tell ourselves, our kids tell ourselves, affect them in this realm of so much importance on social media, and from the parent side of things?
Well, I think it goes back to I can find my happiness in others versus I got to create my own happiness. So they're seeing all of these false images that people have created and put out there and choreographed, and they think that would make me happy. If only I could look like that, talk like that.
Get a bunch of likes.
Yeah,
right?
go to where they are and wear
As
that.
we start off talking about our views and likes.
Let's do some more.
Listen to our podcast.
Episode 4, right? Is this 4?
This is episode 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it just exasperates that whole
Right.
mantra of I'm not in charge of my happiness unless I can do that.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly.
Right.
And when you're young, that's all you know. I mean, unless as you grow, you learn it's different. But especially now when it's just, they're inundated with images and, it's right at their fingertips all the time. And they're not real images.
Right. And
most of the time.
Stuff we didn't grow up having to worry about.
Right.
Right.
Like, we weren't out there on the internet or anything like that doing those things or trying to get affirmation that way.
Right.
So yeah, it's scary. Like my kids aren't on social media yet, like yours. But I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm trying to hold off as long as I can for my 6th grader, but it's tough when
because
I
the
hear about
social
it from
pressure.
her friends. Yeah, like, oh, you don't have a phone yet. Oh, but it's like, come on.
Yeah, but you're giving
But
her
I
the
don't
greatest
get
gift, right? I mean, because
Right.
the impulsiveness too,
Right.
It's at their fingertips, and
Right.
it's just
And
done.
mistakes can be so much bigger, more magnitude or more magnified in those on Instagram, TikTok, all those things, right? Like
Right.
can't
And kids
take
make
it back.
mistakes.
it's there, right?
They're going to do
right.
it. They're going to mess up.
It costs kids careers early, athletic scholarships and things. Like it's
There's legal
serious
things
stuff.
that even go involved
Yes,
at
for
times.
sure.
Right.
And later on, when we talk about being in our head and being elevated and not having that calm down time, right? They don't, when they have the device in their hand and they are elevated and they can't bring themselves back down in that moment, they're making decisions that are going to affect them. They're like, we maybe would write a note to somebody and
Right,
the next day,
right.
24 hours later or 12 hours later, yeah, I'm not giving them this note, right? That was I can't believe I even wrote that. But now it's like, I'm mad, instantly, like send.
Right.
And then, or post, or do this, and it's done. And now you calm down 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, and you're like, oh.
And you can't undo it.
Nope.
You
They talk
can't
about
get
it
it
in
back
the
once it's
chapter,
out there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where,
Or and they're using it to calm down too, right? Like they're
Yes.
using their device to calm
right.
down.
And
So-
then if you take their phone away, you've taken
Right.
their only coping mechanism
Yep.
away, and you're like,
and then it's a spiral.
so it is. It's a hard,
Well, and
hard
I think
thing.
especially, I know your daughter's in 6th grade. At like that middle school age, the support system where our kids get their main support up until that age is like your parents and your family unit, right? And then it makes a switch to their social circle. And that's the natural progression of becoming an adult. And we want that, right? Because we want them to connect with their world and we want them to connect with people and we don't want them to rely on us forever, right? We're raising adults, we're not raising children. But the scary part is that all of them are accessing that via social media. So if you don't provide her that, is that going to impact her social circle, if you will, and her social supports? And are you denying her that? So then it becomes a bigger conversation of like, what is appropriate for her age and her developmental level, but also what's appropriate for her social life,
Right,
because we want that for them.
I mean, she has an iPad. She can text some of her friends on that, and adults in her life too. But yeah, otherwise social media is not part of her life right now.
I don't blame you.
It's tough. So building off of the power of perception is the skill of composure, which in short means being the person that you want to become but also being the model that you want those around you to also be. In episode 2, Lisa shared some of the neuroscience that's involved with conscious discipline. And this can be seen here with the skill of composure, which requires the use of the prefrontal lobes of your brain to keep you regulated. We've all been stressed. We all experience that feeling, that emotion. But the key is being able to regulate yourself and being brain smart so that you can safely move from survival or emotional state back to the executive functioning. So there's a couple ways that the chapter talked about that we can become brain smart. And one, building off what we just talked about, identifying what some of those triggers or those false messages that we tell ourselves in situations, so that way we can understand how to cope and bring ourselves out of those situations without telling ourselves we're not good enough, we're not good enough, we're not good enough, or I need to blame, I need to blame, I need to blame. Example there being that the parent thinks the child misbehaved just to make you mad, right? And so being able to move from that thought and push it out and think about that logically, that that's a choice that they made, it has nothing to do with me. One of the strategies it mentioned was the Q-tip strategy, quit taking it personally, as a means to remind ourselves that their actions are not a statement about our self-worth. Another strategy or tip was to practice active calming through uploading and downloading Calm. This can look different depending on the brain state you're in. So if you're already in a survival state, right, you could be a star, take your star breath. There's some other belly breaths that we've talked about at the elementary school. Besides the star, there's the balloon breath, the pretzel breath, the drain breath. We kind of joked that maybe that could be like a mini episode.
Spider-Man, right? A Spider-Man one.
Spider-Man breath? What's the Spider-Man breath?
Yeah, right. The web shooting one. Yeah.
I'm sorry, does Spidey do that? And I don't know about
No.
it?
It was on the thing I listened to.
Was it on
video?
there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I
it
missed
is in the videos.
No, I have no idea.
Look at you becoming the expert.
Prepared. I was prepared.
Well done. In the emotional state, it might look more like telling myself I'm safe, I'm going to keep breathing, I can handle this, right? The self-affirmation. In the executive state, when I'm just doing just fine, I'm just going to wish you well, and I'm going to help you problem solve this situation because I can see that you are in a moment right now and you're going to need some assistance. And then the third strategy, building off that, downloading Calm to others. The saying in the chapter was, grumpy people can download grumpiness to others in the same way that peaceful people can download peace to others. And in that situation, talking about the neuroscience, the mirror neurons in the brain are actually activated when actions are performed and observed by others. And we've all been there, right? Like we've been in a situation where someone who is always happy comes in the room and just kind of makes you feel a little bit better. But then you've got like, Deb the Downer from Saturday Night Live, right? I'm sure we've all seen it or know the reference, right? There's some sort of
There's no
social function.
Saturday Night Live fans here. I don't know.
Deb the Downer comes in and drops some line about feline HIV crisis in the country, right? And then just brings everybody down. So it is a real thing, and we've all been there. We've all experienced it.
He said feline HIV on our podcast.
Explicit.
It's
explicit
from the show.
That makes it okay then. Yeah.
So there's a statement in the chapter: whomever you have placed in charge of your feelings, you have placed in charge of you. What does that mean to you? How does that statement connect to perception and composure? Again, the statement, whoever you've placed in charge of your feelings, you've placed in charge of you.
I mean, maybe to me, it's kind of like you're acting how others think you should act. Maybe does that sound? Maybe others in charge of you. You're.
I kind of related to like codependency in relationships. From a counseling standpoint, right? Like we see this a lot with parents, of like my whole existence revolves around my child's feelings and like functioning. And while our children are our first priority, that codependency of like I'm not happy unless you're happy it's a slippery slope. I think even in our relationships with adults, often like those codependent relationships aren't very healthy for both members involved in the party, and like that just creates putting somebody else in charge of my feelings. I've got to find value and importance in what makes me happy, and what fulfills me. I care that the people around me are happy. I want my girls to be happy. I want my husband to be happy. But that's not the only way I can be happy as a person.
And it just feels exhausting to think like I have to make everyone else happy and all of the things that I'm doing, because then there are things that I'm not able to do for me that are healthy and important.
Make you happy.
So
yeah, I think the key is like I can only be responsible for my own happiness, right? Like I can be a tool for others, but I can't necessarily be responsible for them.
But isn't that the opposite of what society has taught us in our like marriages? Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess maybe even more, I may be...
Happy wife, happy life, right?
That's what I'm saying, like, even more as a wife, I feel like the pressure of, like, supporting your husband and all of those things. And society's making big shifts, right? Like, I don't want to make this about that, but, like, I think as a woman, I feel a lot of pressure of, like, making sure my kids are happy, making sure my marriage is good, when it is a co-effort. I'm putting that pressure on myself.
Gotta find balance and all that, for sure.
Yeah.
I started reading this book this week. It's called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Has anybody read it or
I've heard of it.
It's on my to-read list.
Is that at Borders? Can I get that at Borders?
I don't know. We should reopen a Borders.
Yeah, we should.
See what happens.
Borders is closed, I think.
That's why we said reopen.
I don't know.
So it's very similar to some of the ideas behind conscious discipline. So here's some bullet points. It recognizes that you can't control others' actions, their choices, or their words and their thoughts, and you certainly can't change them. So when you come across these situations of others doing things that you don't appreciate or want them to do, saying things that maybe you don't like, the idea behind this theory is to just let them. You can't control it. You can't stop it. So why are you making that your responsibility? Why are you shouldering the brunt of it and building stress into yourself and then making you a less, impactful person? All you can do is focus on your own actions. You can only control you. You have to accept that you are releasing yourself from trying to control others, and you're saying, I'm gonna let them do them, and I'm gonna let me do what I need to do for me. And so I just thought that was kind of a cool connection, because all in all, it's just another mindset tool that teaches you to let other people make their choices and live their lives and stop making it your responsibility.
I just have one question. You said that you started reading this book, but are you reading it?
So, fun fact, when I say I'm reading a book,
you're listening to
it's
it.
95% it's an audiobook.
That counts as a book.
It counts. I just wanted to clarify.
I was
It
about
counts.
ready to
Yeah, no, it's
Counts
an
as a
audiobook.
I find nonfiction is better as an audiobook anyway. So
Yeah. I've got a decent commute, so I can knock a book out in a week for the most part.
The voice has to be good, though, right? Like, it can't be like a dull voice.
Yeah,
you're
I
listening
turned some
to.
off because of the voice. It just doesn't help in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it the author that's reading it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
Those are the
For
best.
most nonfiction, they'll do that.
Yeah, it's funny. She said she came across this theory because it was her third child, I believe. I may be wrong on this because, again, it was an audiobook. But it was prom, and it was raining out, and her son and their friends were wanting to go to some taco joint for dinner in the rain that only held like 10 people. And there was like a group of 30 people or something. And like to her, she's like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You need to find a better plan. And her daughter just kept telling her, let them go. Let them go. Just let them go. It's not your problem. Right. And so she said that was kind of the nexus of this idea. And then she supports it with research and the idea of how stress impacts your brain, taking you from your functioning state to your emotional states. So it was pretty on par with what we're talking about here with conscious discipline.
Natural consequences, right? Like,
Yeah.
touch the stove. It's fine. I told you 13 times to not touch the stove. You want to do it anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
You're going to learn your way.
You're
then,
going to let
right?
them.
Like,
Yeah.
And it's also choosing your battles as a parent, right? Like, you just have to, like, at some point, you have to choose your battles. Like, that would not be a battle that she's going to win.
Right.
And it's almost like it's not worth the stress that it's going to cause to try to, impart your wisdom on them. They have to figure it out themselves. So, yeah, choosing your battles. And
She ended that story by saying that she gave her son like a bunch of cash and said, go have fun. And it was just like the biggest smile she'd seen on his face in a while, because he was like, he could see her trying to solve the problem for them. And it was showing on his face. And so that was kind of the light bulb for her.
I added it to our book club list.
I'll take credit for
Wonderful.
that.
Borders.
Borders.
I kept thinking I wanted to say Home Goods. It's Whole Foods now.
Whole
where
Foods.
Where
Yeah,
Borders
yeah.
used to be, it's Whole Foods.
Right out in front of Kohl's, yeah.
Yeah, right in front of Kohl's.
So chapter 4 had a lot of stuff. It talked more about the brain smart starts. It talked more about the breaths. I think as we get into these skills and powers, there's just a lot of content in there, and more than what we can fit into an episode. But those were kind of the big points I wanted to share. Were there any other thoughts from the chapter outside of what I shared, or that anyone wanted to add that maybe we haven't gotten to yet?
I came across something I found interesting that I kind of do coaching-wise. I help with the varsity girls soccer team, and some of the things I mentioned in the chapter were talking about don't tell them what you don't want them to do. Tell them what you want them to do, right? So we kind of use that in soccer. We don't say, I don't pass it there. We say, pass it here, right? Tell them the good. It's almost like a positive way of putting it. Pass the ball over here instead of the don't. I just something I found interesting in this.
Instead of
clear
like
as
don't
kind.
run in the hallway.
Yeah.
Right.
Walk
in the hallway.
Yeah, I had that for us to work through some examples here to finish up. So they're called like angry or negative exclamations, right? And so I pulled a couple from the chapter. So let's try to rework these statements in the positive, like you were alluding to. So as a parent, we've all been there. We've all said it. Don't make me pull this car over. Very negative, very angry.
I'm going to pull this car over.
I'm going
Is
to
that
pull this
more
car over.
positive?
If you make that choice again, I will be pulling this car over.
Yeah, according to the textbook, the better answer would be, I'm going to pull this car over while you fasten your seatbelt so everyone will be safe.
Yeah. There's
Which is 100% why I pull the car over every
probably
time.
an expletive in there too.
Yeah.
I won't be doing that.
Dr. Martinez shared this with me earlier this week that the average person
Yes.
uses a curse word 5 times an hour. And what he
Wow.
learned about himself was that he is above average,
Above
Above
average.
average. As
You
is
did
probably
it.
Lisa.
Good.
depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Good.
It's an
I
art
heard
form.
it's a sign
It's an
Yes,
art
the
form.
crowd, the sign
Yeah.
of
Sign of intelligence
Yeah.
is what I heard.
Yeah.
People who cuss.
Run with that.
No offense, Carrie, but I'm just
Sorry.
saying.
Yeah. Right.
Not
I
saying you're
am
not
the
intelligent. I'm just saying.
One more.
It is a sign.
You're making my life miserable.
Oh.
Ew.
What would be a better approach to a statement like that? Even if we're feeling it, right? Even if that's the false message we're telling ourselves.
Let's see.
Please make my life better? Is that what?
It
that
goes back
wrong?
to like you got to bring the
to
control
walk
back
away
into
and make some
yourself.
calm
Like
choices.
they're not making you do anything. You're choosing to be miserable about it. So
Yeah.
how do you? I mean,
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I
or
think
just
what
like
Carrie said.
maybe just describing your feeling, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm
feel.
I'm mad. I'm mad and I need space or I need a minute. I don't know about anybody else, but when I tell my toddler I need space, it's like she takes that as an invitation to encroach
Yeah.
on my personal space more. But I don't know. It's
So
just
the book says,
describing.
I'm feeling very frustrated. I'm going to take a deep breath to calm down, and then I will speak with you.
Yeah.
Goes
So a
back
little
to
bit of
those I
modeling
feel
there too,
statements,
right?
right?
Like
I feel
explaining
when.
to them.
I feel this
Yep.
when you
Explain
do
to
this.
them when I feel frustrated. This is what I'm going to do, in hopes that when you're feeling frustrated, you might also do the same thing by taking some breaths
Right.
and taking a moment.
Yep.
So, all
Yeah.
Absolutely.
right. Any other thoughts before we close this episode? No. All right. I want to thank our guests for joining us. Before we leave and close this podcast out, we have what we have dubbed the Wheel of Mischief.
Oh,
Yes.
This is right up Amber's
Cards.
alley, by the way.
No,
No,
the
I
piece.
have 'em.
The piece.
Oh.
Can you check the bag?
Yeah.
Oh, the cards.
it.
So you spin the wheel,
Oh, I found
it
it.
lands on a number, and one of them are going to read you a question to answer. Pretty simple, right?
Yes.
I've got the questions.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't print the
Oh,
cards.
We get a pass. Like,
oh.
Okay.
maybe it's broken. We
Oh,
don't
it's
have to
broken.
do it.
Broken.
They're just
Eric
gonna-
Rader broke it.
Shout out to Eric Rader.
Shout out to Air Grader. Big
If
win
it
last night.
flies
Big
off,
win.
Big
we'll
one
just
last
do
night.
what
Big
we
win last
can.
night.
Oh, I get to go first.
Of course,
Thanks.
ladies,
Ladies
first.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, just wherever the pointer is. Still works.
4.
4. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
come on, Lisa.
Why are manholes round?
What?
The
What?
is-
I thought we were keeping this PG.
That took a turn quickly.
I need
As
a new
far
question.
as like the manholes in the ground.
What?
Right, like
what
on
the
the
Ninja
road.
On the
Turtles come
road.
out of.
Why
Wait,
are they
what?
round?
Like what the Ninja Turtles
What? Manholes.
What did you think I said?
Potholes. In my head, I was like, I don't know what potholes are around. Manholes.
I could see that though. Yeah.
I have no clue. I'm supposed to make something up.
Is there an
or I'm
answer?
really supposed to, is there an answer to this?
Do you have an answer over there?
Whatever answer you have. We do not have an answer key. No.
There is no key.
There's judgment.
Are there tunnels under the manholes, or are there like?
I
they're
think
tunnels.
that's where the sewer is.
That's where,
So tunnels are circles, right?
and
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna go
So
with
when
that.
it comes up out, it's got to be the same shape of the
yes,
tube.
that's what I'm gonna go
Okay.
with. There's no sharp
People
corners to hit
syndrome?
when you're
If you-
driving over them.
If you fall down.
Are they in the road?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you don't want a sharp corner. They can't be square. You'll hit it with your
chose that
tire if
question?
it like
Ever seen
comes
a
up.
manhole before?
Ooh.
Yeah. I've watched Secret Life of Pets.
I've seen manholes, but are they in the sidewalks? Are they in the roads?
We're getting really
Manholes.
far into this one. This is,
a good question.
That
Silly
was,
question.
where are you getting these
this
questions?
is great.
Miss
The
Stillson
interwebs.
is very intellectual, is what we have
Spin.
learned.
You need to spin.
I just,
Yeah,
I
spin
think
the-
she.
No.
He
You
gets
don't
a
answer.
new-
You get a new question.
You get a
Yeah,
new
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Unless you would like
I
to
think you
ask
just have one for me ready, and you're just gonna whatever number it is. It's
Do you
gonna
want
be.
to look at the document?
It's gonna
I'll
be-
show you.
No.
This is not a
Let's pick the
setup.
hardest
This is not a
question.
sting.
This has got to be.
Yeah, it
It's
could
got
be.
to be a
It could
setup.
be.
There's no way it's not a setup. I just hit myself in the chin with the microphone. 9.
You didn't. Did you spin
You
it?
did
spun it.
spin, yeah.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just quiet.
If you could make up,
Your spinner's broke.
it is broke. If you
Yeah.
could make up your own track and field event, what would it be, and who would be the star?
Oh man.
My own track and field event. And who would it be?
Sarcasm.
Holy smokes!
Sarcasm, Kari
Go
said.
deep here.
This is
Unmindful mischief.
For him. We would pick sarcasm.
sarcasm would be a track and field event.
You would make it that way.
I mean, we could definitely get into sarcasm if we needed to. That could be a whole podcast.
Yes, it could. We're looking for ideas for season 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to come back at some
We
point.
can't wait to
Well,
have
yeah?
you back.
Hopefully by then we'll have headphones.
I would love some headphones.
See that, Scotty?
Headphones is a must, and borders reopened. I think we was what
Those
we.
are the conditions.
Yeah,
That's on his rider.
Also,
Yeah.
some
You're
breakfast
avoiding the question. You're
I'm
dodging
trying.
the whole question.
I'm really trying to think of something unique that would be like, oh, that's what Zach would say, but because I'm trying to read the room a little bit, right? I'm not reading the room. I'm joking.
Could care less about the room.
This is really This is the manhole one. The pothole manhole thing was a little
Easier?
easier, I think.
Interesting.
Let me help you out.
Yeah, help me out a little bit. What would be a
How
good?
about we do like different stations with ice cream and we
Oh,
run to
food.
each station? You
We're
can,
getting
like,
food involved.
Yeah, because that was the question earlier. I don't know.
And who
So
would
like
be the winner?
The
a track and
winner?
field / food
Eating
competition.
event.
Yeah, whoever could
track and field eating
eat
event.
the ice cream, go to the
While
next one,
running?
eat more,
Yeah.
and then they have their little card filled and they
So
Who
naturally-
throws up
Finish
first?
line.
So naturally,
I feel like
Who throws up the most?
who throws up the most
The
into
most?
a bucket we
or
could measure.
doesn't throw up.
the most. So
Maybe the
it's
most and quickest. Gain some
Like-
fluency.
stand by me,
This
right?
feels like college.
Tub of
Originally, I
lard,
was like,
tub
you
of
wanna
lard.
keep it down,
Stand by me, and he
but-
throws up the pies. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we'll take that answer.
Okay, sure. Thanks
Who
for
would be
the help,
the star?
everybody.
That was a team effort.
Thanks for
Team
the help.
effort.
Zach
I mean,
would
Joey
be the
Chestnut's
star.
probably involved in that, right? Somehow,
Yeah.
the hot dogs and yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's the master of ceremonies.
yeah, definitely the master
Yes.
of ceremonies.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us, taking time
Wow.
out of your day, and humoring us on this adventure. Just going to close with some key points for families as it relates to Chapter 4. So, key point number 1, the skill of composure leads us to become the person we want others to become. Number 2, the power of perception reaffirms that no one can make me angry without my permission. Number 3, as the parent or the adult, our goal should be to be the person we want others to become and remain calm enough to teach children by example. Number 4, as the child, the goal should be to develop the ability to actively calm and regulate our emotions. And number 5, remember, no one can make me angry without my permission. Reclaim my power by actively calming myself in times of distress, and that effective discipline requires me to model the behavior I want our children to possess. Any closing thoughts, Kari or
I just want to
Lisa?
say about that last one, I am not modeling throwing fits
Yes,
and tantrums,
thank
but
you.
yet that is still happening in my
Thank
house.
you.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
I feel like I feel like I'm one of the most laid back people,
Well-
Yeah.
and my kids, no way. Like,
but they don't know
Shut
how
I'm
up.
gonna
to
work on
regulate.
that, but I just want to say that, like, if you see my child like out in the wild and she's acting like a feral animal, like
Yes.
that's not what I am acting like at home. I'm not.
Well, Mel
trying.
Robbins would
have
say that's
those states,
normal,
yeah.
and that's why we have to teach them how to build that composure in themselves.
Developmentally appropriate.
It is. If I don't buy that Lego, which we've all been there, right? They're gonna blow up in that aisle of
I bought a
of the store.
$25 Liberty Paw Patrol
Liberty
motorcycle
Bibbity.
at
Liberty
Target
Bibbity.
on
Liberty
Sunday.
Bibbity.
Liberty
We
Bibbity.
had an emotional incident because we
Liberty
found a
Bibbity.
pink basketball that had not been played with in I don't know, 5 years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
She's 5.
Yeah, one of those.
But she loves it, and she
Don't you
wanted
throw
to
it
keep
away.
Nope.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
So,
So.
Liberty Bibbity.
Yes.
Bibbity.
No, it's gonna
Yeah,
head.
I find my kids they've copied off each other, right? Like the
Yes.
negative things.
yes.
It's unfortunate, but it's
Here
where
we
we
are.
are. It's where we are.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the 4th episode of Mindful Mischief. Until next time, stay mindful.
Stay mischievous.
And stay connected.
Thank you.
Liberty Bibbity.
Liberty Bibbity.
Bibbidi bibbidi.
Okay.